So welcome everybody to October Strength of Community Chat. Okay, so this month we're exploring the wonderful world of innovation, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to some of the team members from Front Porch Center for Innovation and Wellbeing, or as we affectionately shorten it by saying CIW. So you'll meet a couple of people from that team just to sort of whet your appetite, and hopefully over time you'll get to know other members of the CIW team. So now I'd like to introduce a colleague. Davis is our Vice President of the Front Porch Center for Innovation and Wellbeing, and he's made quite a name for himself in the world of technology to assist older adults, among other of his accomplishments. So Davis, thank you for being my co-host today. Can you please tell us, what is the Front Porch Center for Innovation and Wellbeing, aka CIW? What's your overall mission and vision, and how did that lead us to today's topic and Embodied Labs?
Sure. Thanks, Jen. So the Front Porch Center for Innovation and Wellbeing is a center of excellence within Front Porch. We explore different kinds of technologies and innovations to help support the independence and wellness needs of our residents and the older adult community at large. Our approach is really about trying to test and really understand how these sorts of technologies impact our overall lives and our communities and those who care for us. And so we look at everything from robotic pets to telehealth and telemedicine. We look at voice technology. So many of you may already be familiar with the Amazon Alexa and bringing it to communities. We're really excited about things like exergames. And we have here on the call Crystal, who also oversees things like our cyber cycle and our Wii bowling program. And we're also really excited about virtual reality as well. And I'm going to touch on that for just a moment. But it's really important for us to get the participation and the engagement of residents throughout Front Porch, because the sort of participation and volunteerism in helping us test these technologies are absolutely critical. They are the ones who help us learn from these, and whether or not they're impactful in making a difference in people's lives. And if we find that they do, if there is some kind of traction and engagement, then we look to see how we can bring this to other Front Porch communities. And so it's basically scaling that solution. And so you can kind of look at CIW as a research laboratory within Front Porch of sorts that specifically looks at innovations and technologies to help support all of you. One of the things that we've been looking at for a long while is virtual reality. And we knew as soon as it was widely available in the consumer market, that was more than just an opportunity for kids to play shoot 'em up games. It was also really a way for us to see how we can immerse people in environments to help with everything from anxiety issues, to help with reminiscence, to help people explore different places and experiences that they probably have always wanted to, like being able to travel, for example. And in this research that we've been doing over the past, I would say 4 or 5 years, we came across something called Embodied Labs. And Embodied Labs uses virtual reality. And its mission and its purpose is really to help build empathy among caregivers, among family members, and others who help touch the lives of older adults. And when we came across them, we were just so excited. It's such a powerful tool. And so when we engaged with them, we went through a pilot study. We deployed this to a number of Front Porch communities, and the results were pretty astounding. And so I'm going to turn it over to Tanya, and she can kind of tell you a little bit more about the pilot study and which communities were involved. So Tanya, you want to take it away from here and give people a little bit more of a deeper experience about what Embodied Labs is?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya. I think I've met some of you at some point in my time here. So just to kind of reiterate what Davis said, Embodied Labs VR virtual reality platform where you put on a headset and then you become an older adult with different aging challenges. So the goal of our pilot was to see if something like this, a virtual reality platform that wants to provide empathy training, can we use it to promote higher quality empathetic care among our front porch community, staff, volunteers, family members, and really any other stakeholder, other care partners in the care of residents and the older adult community at large. Some of our objectives were to, of course, measure and demonstrate with data the impact of this immersive empathy building platform, to see if these experiences could increase someone's empathy. And then based on that, develop a replicable and sustainable adoption model for any front porch community who, at the end of this pilot, wanted to adopt it for themselves. We'd have a pathway to sustain that. And ultimately, we wanted to develop positive outcomes that can support promoting it to community leaders to adopt this long term for their staff as just another training tool so that all of our front porch staff can be as high quality as possible. So how we went about this exactly is I would coordinate with a community champion at different communities. We actually hit seven out of the 10 front porch communities. So I connected with a community champion who'd serve as the head trainer. And this could be anyone from like a director of staff development, director of health services, a summer house manager, anyone who really already championed the idea of empathetic care and really understanding the perspective of residents and their daily lives. I'd come in with these virtual reality kits, which includes a laptop, a VR headset or goggles, and do 2 days of intensive hands-on training. Not only training staff, but also training that community champion to be the head trainer. So day one, I come in, I do the full day of training. As you can kind of see in the video Jen is playing, the head trainer or the community champion experiences at least one or all of the labs first to understand what it's all about. And then we go through four staff members at a time while I lead the entire session, and then the community champion supports. Day two, the role switch. So then I take more of a backseat supporting role, and the community champion head trainer takes lead of the training sessions. Hopefully by the end, the community champion is comfortable enough to take it on his or her own for essentially a 2-week test ride of this platform and using it with their staff however they want. Let's see here. Yeah, exit full screen. Embodied Labs itself builds a curriculum based around 4 steps. They're prepare, embody, reflect, and apply. So in the prepare stage, the trainee does a pre-assessment that gauges their current opinions about different conditions and their current knowledge. And then they have a few slides that they click through to give them a little bit of context about what they're going to see. And then they embody, which is step 2, which you can see in the video here. Staff members have the headset on and they're in there, they're embodying an older adult, let's say with vision and hearing impairment. They spend a few moments of time essentially walking in that person's shoes and seeing how the world reacts to them, from how family members react to having, how family members react to you having low vision and hard of hearing, to how your physicians and other care providers talk to you and interact with you. After that, they take off the headset and we do the reflection part. which includes a post-assessment survey to see if their opinions and knowledge have changed from this experience. And then most importantly, in the reflect part, which is arguably as important as putting on the headset itself, is the discussion group, where the group can talk about what they just saw, which can be a really emotional experience, and really hash out what it means, how does it look in practice or in real life in the communities or in the care centers or even their own personal family life. After reflecting all of that, they are challenged to go out and apply the new knowledge that they've gained from being this other person, this older adult for, I don't know, half an hour, to see if their attitudes or feelings or understanding of the other person's experience has changed. So after all that, we collected a good amount of data, approximately 130 users in this pilot period between July 2019 and February 2020, primarily viewing the low vision and hearing impairment lab, which is called the Alfred lab. Which you can see here. Jen is playing a little bit of what the Alfred lab looks like. You have macular degeneration and hearing loss. So that big black hole in the middle, for any of you who are unfamiliar with macular degeneration, that big black hole is your loss of vision. It's loss of central vision. So some of the interesting data points or stats that we pulled from all the surveys, 16% increase in trainees understanding how vision and hearing impairments affect residents' daily lives. There's a 95% increase in trainees understanding the perspective of older adults with hearing and vision loss. And even more notably, 173% increase in trainees agreeing that individuals with low vision can indeed live meaningful, fulfilling lives, which is a huge change from the pre-survey where people didn't think people who have low vision or vision impairment could live meaningful lives, and then viewing this and then understanding that, yes, you can have a meaningful life still, even with vision impairment. So that's some of the data and results that we're hoping to see with the rest of the Embodied labs, which include, so I covered the vision hearing impairment one. There's also one on Alzheimer's. So experience what it's like to have all stages of Alzheimer's disease. There's an end of life one with terminal cancer diagnosis. So you actually go through the process of end of life and hospice care. Really emotional one. There's a lab on Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia and the differences between the two, which was actually shot at one of our front porch communities, Kingsley Manor. And then most recently, they released one showing the challenges of living as an older adult in the LGBT community, identifying as a trans woman, and the unique challenges of that population, which I feel like we often don't think about in older adults in this kind of industry and community. And then soon, by the end of the year, they're coming out with a social isolation lab, which shows the impact, the devastating impact of social isolation and the ways we can counteract that. Should I talk about a couple of quote snippets that I pulled, or should we let John and Tanya talk more about that?
That was really cool and very interesting. Thank you so much. Can we go back maybe, and then after John and Tanya share, maybe you can make some correlations between their shares and your findings? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So John is a resident at Carlsbad by the Sea in San Diego. He's a retired electrical engineer who earned his degree at the University of Louisville, Kentucky. John's also the chairman of the community's technology committee and has been a participant in a number of recent adopted innovations at Carlsbad by the Sea. John? I know that you're there. If you can unmute yourself, can you tell us previously to these labs, what was your impression of virtual reality technology, and which of the Embodied Labs trainings did you try, and what was your final impression upon completing them?
First of all, I've probably followed virtual reality for 7 or 8 years, and I participated in 2 of the segments. One on macular degeneration, of which we have quite a few people here that have that, and secondly on Alzheimer's. What I found most interesting, and that is as a person that doesn't want either one of those, what I found was that if I were a professional in the field, those 2 demonstrations would really bring home how to deal with someone with either one of those problems, because it puts you in the shoes of that person as to how you saw the world, how you saw the people around you, how you saw the way that they treated you. And it made you, I think it would really make you think more, especially if I were a professional, about how to treat that person and how to deal with them, because it puts you in their shoes and get all of these snipey remarks or some other thing like that, how it would affect you. So I think it was a great program, especially for professionals in the field, and one that Front Porch ought to train their people, use it to train the people in how to deal with their patients or their residents.
How do you think this might help your fellow residents or residents in the highest level of, say, skilled nursing? You do have a skilled nursing care center there on site. How do you think these trainings will benefit those residents?
Well, first of all, I think anybody that's in one of these residence places should probably participate in that, because it gives you a feeling for how people are dealing with it and gets you ready for when you got to deal with it. I think anybody in the community would learn from those 2, at least those 2 programs. And then the question is, how many people really want to participate in that? You know, what we found over all these technologies we've introduced here at Carlsbad by the Sea, and we've done quite a few, is that this is my rudimentary conclusion. There's 20% of the population are engineers like me, are technically trained, who are first adopters. We'll try everything. So nothing scares us. Give us the technology and we'll proceed with it. Then you have the middle of the road, which is probably 50 or 60%, that once you introduce them and train them and get them on it, they like it and they'll use it. Alexa is a good example. We now have our resident concierge, which is doing everything online. And then you have 20%, just don't bother me. You're just not going to get them involved in new technology, no matter how transparent it might be. So, you know, at one point, a typewriter was high technology, a telephone was high technology. But once it gets transparent that you're not dealing with technology, then everyone will adopt it. So you get there, it takes time.
Thank you, John. And thanks for participating with enthusiasm. Sure. Our next guest is Tanya Mazzolini, who is the manager at Summer House at Villa Gardens. I can see her in the gallery there. Summer House is a unique memory care neighborhood in Villa Gardens retirement community in Pasadena. Tanya's been with us since
about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. She's got a personal passion for engagement and the specialized care needed for residents with Alzheimer's and related dementias. So Tanya, can you please tell us a little about Summer House and what you think makes it a unique place for memory care?
Summer House, I can speak for my particular neighborhood. I have a small neighborhood with a maximum capacity of 19 residents. So keeping it small makes it more intimate. It's easy for the residents to get to know each other and to interact with each other. And one of the important things about memory care is that they're interacting with people who are at the same or similar cognition level as themselves. For some people, well, for most people, it can be difficult to remain engaged with someone who has a different intellect. Okay, so my residents may have a high intellect but a lower cognition, which means their ability to function can be challenging to them. So if they're with other people who function at the same level that they do, a lot of their inhibitions are gone. They can relax. They can interact with each other more comfortably and interact with the activities more comfortably and still feel successful, still feel that they have purpose in their daily lives. And with the Embodied Labs, using it as a training tool for my staff was really just absolutely wonderful. The staff was able to experience what it is to be a resident, particularly in memory care. There was one portion where a resident with aphasia who couldn't speak properly and didn't understand language properly. I thought they did an excellent job of letting you experience what that feels like for the resident. Before the pilot, I had zero experience with any kind of virtual reality. I understood the concept, but I had never experienced it. So I thought, how are they really going to show me what dementia feels like? You know, I was very curious. I wanted to find out more about it, and then experiencing it for myself was, wow, it really does put you in their shoes. So I was really impressed with how it conveyed what it feels like, whether it was macular degeneration or dementia. So, and the Parkinson's and the Lewy body, at first I thought, is this thing broken? Because I'm moving my hands, but I'm not picking anything up. And then I realized that's the frustration that the residents feel because of the disconnect between mind and body. So they could want to do something, but their body's not responding. There was nothing wrong with the program. It was doing what it was supposed to and giving me that feeling of not being able to accomplish a simple task of picking up a pen.
Tanya, this is Davis. Can you, you shared an example a little while ago about one of your care team members who was kind of struggling with something and remembered her training and how it actually changed the way that she delivered her care.
Yeah. She had taken the training and had good feedback. And then a few days later, she said that she was interacting with a resident and she was starting to feel herself get frustrated because the resident wasn't complying. And then she remembered, wait a minute, I had that same, she connected with the resident because she had experienced it through Embodied Labs. So she had a better understanding of why the resident was acting like that. She changed her behavior and the whole situation de-escalated, and she was able to very easily redirect the resident and have a much better experience with the resident in the moment. It was wonderful.
I know that you've had more than just one staff member participate. What are the other feedback stories have you heard from them overall?
I had one staff member who not only works here in dementia care, but was dealing with dementia in her own home with her mother. And it was very emotional training her on it because she said, you know, there are certain things you really don't have, even though you work with it every day, there are things you just don't know because you're not in their shoes. And that was an emotional session for her and for me, because talking to her about it, it gave her so much insight as to not just what her residents are going through, but what her mother was going through. And so that was touching for her to be able to connect like that. For us in memory care, these are behaviors and experiences that we chose as our career. This is what we do. And we've become dementia professionals. For families, this could be their first and only experience. This is the first time they're going down that path. Every step is new. Everything is, I don't understand why they're doing this. I don't understand, like, this is insane. Why are they doing this? And it's frustrating, and this is your loved one. And if it's your parent, these are our heroes. And now our hero doesn't know how to butter their toast. And it's gut-wrenching, and you're not understanding it. So if they could see that you're still you just don't have these functions, but you're still who you are. I think it would be very beneficial for families to understand that you haven't lost your loved one. They just can't butter their toast, or whatever that function is. So I think it would be really wonderful if you have a family member who is suffering with dementia to have that insight into what it is to be them.
So I want to bring this back to Davis for a second. Davis, if we are participating in this conversation today and we are a resident at a Front Porch community, or we are a staff person at a Front Porch community, and this is something of great interest to us, we feel like this would be an advantage and an edge to the care that we provide at our communities. How can we as community members find out more about getting this at our community?
First, we have it currently available at Vista Del Monte, Sunnyview. Vista Del Monte is in Santa Barbara. Sunnyview at our Cupertino community, and at Villa Gardens in where Tanya is at in Pasadena. If you would like to kind of learn more, and if you're among those communities, then approach your executive director and ask them more about it. For the communities that don't have embodied labs currently available, ask them and speak with them about it, because it's still something that we want to see throughout Front Porch. We believe this is a powerful tool for training our workforce, for our staff, for our communities, and we're not just talking about people who are working within summer house. We also want to train the kitchen staff or dining staff. We want to train housekeepers. We want to train plant operations and anyone who comes within, comes in touch with the lives of residents. It's really important just to have that perspective. And we really believe that this is a game changer. And it also does tend to attract new employees who are really excited about cutting edge technologies as part of their training and staff development and professional development. And so we encourage you to have those conversations, and because all the executive directors, they know Embodied Labs, they know that CIW has been working on it. And so if you would like to see more of it, please talk to your community leadership about it.
Awesome. I had told Tanya that we would go back to her after listening to John and Tanya. And so their experiences and their stories, how do those correlate to the findings in your report? And what's the most interesting thing that in the pilot report that you weren't expecting?
So Tanya's and John's experience and stories with it are pretty consistent with what we saw in the numbers. And just from verbal comments that we've heard from staff, or even when I was running the training sessions, I love a lot of staff members approach this with some hesitation, right? They come and see a gaming computer with this headset, lots of cords, and it looks really intimidating. And then it's like, don't worry, just put it on and see what it's all about. And by the end, word is spreading around the whole community, the whole care center, and it builds up like CNAs start. And then by the end, our RNs are coming. It's like, when is it our turn to try this out? We want to see. And I usually ask during my sessions, would you rather could you get the same experience and knowledge from watching this as either an in-service presentation or from, a training DVD, which is often what staff members go through for training. And overwhelmingly, everyone says this method of training, the virtual reality Embodied Labs training, is significantly different. It allows you to actually be that experience that they're watching on screen normally, and actually be part of the action, be the actor. So it's different, and they find that they do get a lot of meaning out of this training platform. One of my most favorite quotes or comments that was told to me was from the Sunnyview Director of Health Services. She put it in such a good way. She said, "I can teach my staff how to do the technical parts of nursing and caregiving, but it's hard to prepare them for the emotional parts." She's always looking for tools to provide her staff with what she can't do herself. And this is something that she finds allows her to teach that emotional part of caregiving.
Can we answer some of the questions in the chat? You have an excellent question here.
Just wondering, I know it's how virtual reality could simulate physical disabilities like macular degeneration and hearing loss, but how does it work for, like you mentioned earlier, end of life experiences or dementia experiences? Can you give us more detail about what someone would experience in that type of simulation?
Sure. I can give you a basic idea without spoiling too much in case any of you end up watching it. So for dementia or Alzheimer's, you go through early stage, middle stage, and then end stage Alzheimer's or late stage. And you kind of see that progression. Anything from like an early stage, you have lapses in time, perception of time. So you, as the character Beatrice, is out at a park, let's say, with her daughter and granddaughter. And then suddenly there's a cut and you are confused, not recognizing who your daughter and granddaughter are. It's like, oh, who is this lady and this woman? Why is she grabbing my purse? And it's a frightening moment of confusion. Later on, you're doing some grocery shopping to pick up for a family meal, Easter Sunday, I think. And you have a shopping list that says flour, Flour, flour. You look at it, you ask someone where flour is, they take you to it and you grab it, and then you look at the list again, and the word on your shopping list changes to flower, like the plant, like Flower. So that's kind of the aphasia that Tanya Mazzolini talked about a little bit earlier, is one of the changes the brain goes through. Later on, when you actually have to communicate, there's a voice component that requires you to speak, saying something like, "I'm not okay, something's wrong with me," but it plays back saying something completely different. So that kind of simulates if you ever interacted with someone with Alzheimer's or dementia and they say something like, "Oh, there's a snake on the chair," but obviously there's not a snake. They might be trying to indicate something, it's just the words aren't coming out correctly. There's like a mismatch. Going to end of life simulation, it's a gauntlet of doctor's appointments as you go on your condition, which is esophageal cancer. I think you can't speak anymore, so you're typing on a phone to communicate, but really you see the impact it's having on the family members. Two sisters, your daughters, are arguing each other on your best care, and you have such a hard time just advocating for yourself. One, because you literally can't talk, but two, as a cultural thing, you're a Chinese American man in this experience. As a cultural thing, it's, whatever my kids think is best. So you watch your daughters arguing until they come to acceptance that this is terminal. You physically, as part of the end of life process, somehow they've made it just by visual and audio cues. Your body just feels so heavy. Your eyelids don't open quite as far anymore. And you're probably wondering, how does someone create this experience if they don't live through it themselves? Because often if you're on the end of life track, you're probably not reporting on this experience. And Embodied Labs interviews hundreds of subject matter experts, scientists, caregivers to put together their best guess at what this experience is. You do end up passing away in this lab, and you actually get kind of like a bird's eye view of what happens during that process for everyone else and how they care for the body, any sort of religious respects and things like that. So that's kind of a sneak peek into the end of life lab.
Can you give us a quick rundown of the labs that are available?
Sure. So there's the Alfred lab. You're a man named African-American man named Alfred who has macular degeneration and hearing loss. There's the Beatrice lab. You're a Latina American woman with Alzheimer's disease. There's the Clay lab, which is the end of life one, and you're a Chinese American man. There's the Dima lab, where you have Lewy body dementia, but also talks about Parkinson's disease and how that's related. And you're actually a Lebanese American woman, which is pretty cool to explore the cultural nuances in care based on different cultures. The Eden lab, which is the LGBT one with a focus on transgender health. That's all the ones that are currently available.
Being in a virtualized experience and going through that experience, like really kind of really actually changes your thinking, because then it becomes a part of you as opposed to watching a video. So being immersed in a circumstance or a scenario and interacting and engaging with that scenario there's some sort of there's something that actually within that experience, it becomes a part of you. It becomes incorporated into who you are, and you know, as you embody someone else's experience. And so that's what the effectiveness is around virtual reality in this sort of application, is that caregivers, it sticks with them, and they take it with them wherever they go, and in those encounters when they kind of see themselves in those sort of circumstances. So so yes, you can watch videos and you know and see, like, you know, all the steps that are necessary, and even maybe even try to embody the experience of the people who are experiencing those conditions. But there's something about a virtual reality experience that actually remains with you once you go through it. And I think another thing that's kind of important to like this embodied labs approach is the reflection and the sharing that happens afterwards, like in talking about it and using this as a platform to talk about like other things that may have happened within their own lives, to kind of share and bring that out in the group.
Like you can watch a video of what it's like to ride a roller coaster, right? You see people waving their hands, it's thrilling, you have drops, but you're not really feeling it. You're not acting within that that video of that roller coaster. And then you get on a real roller coaster and it's an entirely different experience to actually be there and feel it all around you. That's the best example I can come up with.
I don't know whether this is for Davis maybe, but I wondered whether you are planning on going to the executive directors or others to take this to other communities, or you talked about us maybe doing that as residents, but I wondered whether you were going to be taking it to the executive directors.
We actually have. All of the directors are aware of this technology and the fact that CIW has been piloting it, and we're really encouraging all of our communities to make this investment. I think that if this is something that residents, you as a resident is really interested in, please talk to the executive director. You know, it's this kind of interest that really helps them understand like how they can, you know, bring these kinds of innovations to the community. And so if it's something that you feel would really benefit the residents and the staff, then just start that conversation. Say, you know, I went to this webinar, this chat, you know, with CIW, and I understand that Embodied Labs is available, and is it possible to bring that to our community? As Tanya had mentioned, 7 of the 10 communities at from Porch have at least tested it and piloted it. So a lot of folks have had the chance to put their hands on it. And so it's a matter of just kind of bringing it up to their attention.
Part of our roadmap that got slightly disrupted by the pandemic, but our roadmap did account for bringing it to family nights and having family members experience this, as well as figuring out a way to have residents go through experiencing Embodied Labs, because we can always learn more about our neighbors and the different conditions and challenges they might be going through.
I also find I worked at AARP and have worked in nursing homes and so on in my prior job. And what I found was when it finally came to taking care of my parents and dealing with them personally, it was a whole different story from when I was working with people as a professional in the nursing home. But when it comes to your personal life, it's things are very different in terms of how you react and how you feel. So I think it could be really useful for families.
Thank you guys. I hope you found this introduction to CIW interesting. You can visit their website at fpciw.org to learn more about the awesome things that they've been up to and some of the past projects that they've done. Some of their accomplishments are also there. Thanks for coming, everybody.